From talented thespians dangling from objects not designed to hold a human body, to very nearly becoming a big cat lunch on the turn of a dime, these stars of the big and small screen simply had no clue disaster was heading their way. I'm Gareth from Whatculture.com, and here are 10 actors who didn't realize they were seconds away from disaster. Number 10. Eli Wallock, the good, the bad and the ugly, nearly losing his head. Eli Wallock's time shooting on Sergio Leone's legendary The Good, the Bad and the Ugly feature wasn't what you'd class as a dull affair by any stretch of the imagination. If very nearly meeting his maker on the back of almost drinking acid on set wasn't bad enough, the actor drafted in to play Tuco was nearly left with a head very much separated from his body on the back of an ill-thought-out train stunt. Instead of having a stunt performer execute the risky scene involving Tuco splitting a chain connecting him to a dead man thanks to an oncoming train, Wallock was brought in to do the scene himself. Only no one realized that said train had a pair of protruding steps attached to it, meaning that if Wallock's head had been in the wrong place, well, let's just say that trying to break free from some chains would have been the least of his problems. Thankfully, Wallock survived the nutty stunt and was also saved from an explosion during the shoot by Clint Eastwood. Someone really had it out for Wallock in this western though, eh? Number 9. Bob Denver, Gilligan's Island, almost becoming Lion Lunch. While shooting on season 2 of the hit series Gilligan's Island back in 1966, Bob Denver was tasked with getting up close and personal with one rather intimidating cat. This lion, while trained, was still, a lion. So despite rehearsals going swimmingly, you likely won't be too surprised to hear that this big cat had other ideas. Letting out a huge roar, the lion leaped at Denver, who had his back turned to the animal. Luckily, the bed moving back as the beast jumped bought the animal's trainer some time to restrain the lion in midair. As Denver turned around, he quickly realized just how close he'd come to becoming human catnip. Number 8. Uma Thurman, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Lightning Thief. Pierce Brosnan to the rescue! You've likely already heard about the numerous dreadful situations Uma Thurman has found herself in on movie sets over the years, with the star suffering serious neck and back injuries whilst filming Kill Bill in 2003, and claiming there was no acting required when being buried alive for that same feature. Thankfully, when it came to her time on the set of Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Lightning Thief, the intervention of a former 007 managed to keep the star from adding another traumatic experience to her career. After a crew member stupidly forgot to stick the brakes on their van on set, Thurman was directly in the way of the oncoming vehicle when it began to roll towards her at speed. Luckily, Pierce Brosnan, one of Thurman's co-stars on the flick, dramatically hopped in the van at the last minute and slammed on the brakes, saving the Medusa actor from being squashed in between takes. Number 7. Aaron Paul, Breaking Bad. Rolling boulders ain't no joke. There's no questioning the fact that the jaw-dropping AMC crime drama Breaking Bad made household names of both Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul. But things could have been quite different for the latter star had he not requested to move to a different spot while shooting a scene in season 1 of the show. As confirmed in the show's DVD commentary, moments after Paul had repositioned himself out in the desert, a gust of wind sent a 40-pound boulder that was sat on top of the RV nearby smashing straight into the spot he was once stood. Sure, there was talk of Jesse Pinkman being killed off during that very same season, but Vince Gilligan and the gang very nearly had that decision taken away from them in an instant. It just goes to show if the heat doesn't get you, then rotten rogue boulders will. Number 6. Harold Lloyd, Haunted Spooks. That fake bomb looks awfully real. The 1920s were a very different time in the world of movie making, evidenced in the fact that it somehow escaped everyone on set that what was supposed to be a fake bomb was actually very much the real deal. This incident went down during a photo shoot for the silent feature Haunted Spooks, which involved actor Harold Lloyd posing for shots in front of a photographer. In this moment, Lloyd spotted the nearby fake bomb and noted that for a fake, it sure was emitting a lot of real-looking smoke. Seconds later, his instincts about something not being quite right were proved to be correct. The bomb legitimately exploded, sending the photographer flying and leaving Lloyd without 2 fingers. It's safe to say that absolutely nobody in the immediate vicinity had any clue they were stood so close to an armed explosive device. Number 5. Ed Harris, The Abyss. James Cameron decides to take things up an unexpected notch. The There's a reason Ed Harris often refuses to even discuss the ordeal of bringing James Cameron's The Abyss to life, and it's largely down to the fact that he didn't have what you call the most enjoyable shoot. It's been said that during a scene which involved Harris's character of Virgil Bud Brigman running out of oxygen underwater, instead of just allowing the actor to act out the moment, like they're supposed to, Cameron decided to ensure the star's oxygen ran out for realsies to capture a more authentic performance. So what at first seemed like just another scene quickly turned into an unexpected battle to survive for Harris, and ultimately led to him whacking the director in the face upon eventually resurfacing and hearing what had happened. All in all, it comes as little surprise to hear that Harris would spontaneously burst into tears throughout shooting. Between this and being genuinely submerged underwater whilst trapped inside of a deep suit, it's a surprise he didn't thump Cameron daily. Number 4, Eli Roth and Omar Doom, Inglourious Bastards, Too Hot to Handle. Perhaps the most spectacular moment of Quentin Tarantino's alternate tale of a number of attempts to assassinate Nazi leaders comes in the form of a cinema containing said leaders being blown all the way to hell towards the end of the flick. Though this was always set to be an explosive finale, nobody on the set of Inglourious Bastards was really aware just how hot a set piece this would actually be. As Eli Roth would later note when talking to the LA Times, the fire comes up, they thought it was going to burn at 400 degrees centigrade, and it burned at 1200. Roth would go on to explain that his co-star Omar Doom wound up in the hospital due to the unanticipated heat whilst filming the fiery sequence. But he also stated that those on set were informed by the fire department that if the building had kept burning for 10 to 15 seconds more than it already had, it would have likely collapsed on all of them. Number 3, Ellen Burston, The Exorcist. A sudden yank changes the mood. If, like Ellen Burston did while shooting The Exorcist, a star confesses that they feel as though they're in danger, the correct response is to listen and do what needs to be done to ensure said moment is as safe as possible. William Friedkin, however, had a different reaction to this response. Despite supposedly telling the person yanking Burston back with a wire after her character is sent flying by her possessed daughter to not pull her so hard, the contrary happened. Burston was unexpectedly dragged back so hard that she permanently injured her spine, with this version of the scene finding itself in the finished product. The actor has gone on record to admit, "I'm not sure that he didn't cancel that behind my back because the guy smashed me into the floor," when discussing Friedkin's order to his wire person, again highlighting the lack of trust shared between the two. Number 2, Buster Keaton, Sherlock Jr. No one realized a neck had been broken. It's hard to even fathom how a human being could literally break their neck and not realize anything was up. But in the case of Buster Keaton while shooting for 1924's Sherlock Jr., that's precisely what went down. Coming during the scene which saw Keaton's Sherlock Jr. getting doused with a sudden downpour of water coming out of a tower above, things didn't entirely go to plan. After setting off the spout and falling back down to the tracks below, Keaton walloped his neck on a nearby rail. He was then knocked unconscious and would go on to experience some rather severe headaches, but soldiered on regardless. It was only several years later when the actor was getting checked out by a doctor that the information became known to the star himself, highlighting the break in a number of x-rays that had been taken of his body. To go that long without realizing your neck is legitimately crumbling is a testament to the acting and stuntman sensation's ridiculous strength of both mind and body. Number 1, Donald Sutherland, Don't Look Now, Dangling in Danger. Sometimes ignorance really can be bliss, but in the case of Donald Sutherland's time dangling from a wire while shooting 1973's Don't Look Now, that ignorance very nearly resulted in a life-threatening tumble from up high, with the stuntman on set deciding that he was not going to put himself in danger due to insurance not being in place for him should something go wrong. Sutherland was roped in to perform a sequence that would see his character dangle from a rope. The actor was attached to a Kirby wire for safety, but as it turned out, this would have done next to nothing to aid the star should the rope have suddenly snapped. The fact that the actor had been twirling around on the aforementioned rope would have led to the wire becoming damaged, meaning that if he had let go or it had snapped, the chances are he would have fallen straight out of the sky.